Hello. Vilas sir, you can
Yes.
start.
Okay. A very pleasant good morning to one and all. On behalf of the cluster institutions, I, Dr. Vilas A. Nagpure, welcome you all to the online lecture series of BA Part 2 Semester 3 English Language exclusively for the major paper.
Hello, Vilas sir, you are not audible. Is there any network issue? Hello.
मला फोन केला प्रगती आणि लाईट वगैरे तर नाही कॉलेज मध्ये कारण मॅमनीच त्यांनी फोन करून सांगितलं मॅम जर लाईट गेली आप कुछ नहीं हो सकता करके नहीं यार फिर पक्का करूं अभी मैं चाय आपके बहुत दिन हो गया आपको किटकेट की पार्टी नहीं मैंने किसी को भी नहीं दी हाँ मेरे को एक दिन था मैडम की आई मैंने दी थी इतनी बड़ी
Yes, Vilas sir.
Sir, sorry for the network loss. There was a network issue. So sorry for that. A very pleasant good morning to one and all. On behalf of the cluster institution, I, Dr. Vilas A. Nagpure, welcome you all to the online lecture series of BA Part 2 Semester 3 English Language exclusively for the major 5th and 6th subject, which is being organized by the Board of Study English Language Rashtrasant Tukadoji Maharaj Nagpur University in collaborations with the Manohar Kamdi Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, Rajkumar KEWALRAMANI Kanya Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, SETH Kesharimal PORWAL College Kamptee and Mahatma Gandhi Arts and Commerce College PARSEONI. For today's sessions, we have with us a very magnanimous and a very eminent resource person, Dr. Meenakshi Wasnik Madam with us. I welcome you, ma'am. In today's session, let me take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Meenakshi Wasnik ma'am. Dr. Meenakshi Wasnik ma'am is currently working as Associate Professor, Department of English, MANOHARRAO Kamdi Mahavidyalaya Nagpur. She is coordinator of IQAC and is associated with the various committee of her college. Her area of the interest is the diaspora literature. She has 17 years of the teaching experience and she has several research papers published in national and international journals of repute. She has published the 10 poems in various volumes. Madam has recently authored one book entitled Bharti Mukherjee and the Jhumpa Lahiri Fictions of Indian Diaspora. Madam has coordinated the personality development and the career placement certificate courses in her college. With a great honor, I invite Dr. Meenakshi Wasnik ma'am to deal with her presentations on the topic Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre, Unit 3 Poetry section. It's over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vilas sir, for such a graceful introduction. At the very outset, let me take the opportunity to thank the organizers of the program, Honorable Urmila Dabir Madam, Chairperson, Board of Studies, RTMNU Nagpur, Dr. Usha Sakure Madam, Principal, MANOHARRAO Kamdi Mahavidyalaya Nagpur, Dr. Swapnil Dahat Sir, Principal, SK Porwal College, Kamptee, and Dr. Lokchan Jadhav Sir, Principal, Mahatma Gandhi College, for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to be the part and parcel of this lecture series. So I also thank the coordinators, Dr. Madhvi Mohral Madam, Dr. Renuka Roy, and Professor Pramod Gorde sir for their stewardship in executing this program so well. So I have been assigned to deliver my presentation on the topic which is given from the poetry section, Unit 3, the poem entitled Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitri. So without much ado, I move on to my presentation. So I would be sharing my screen. Sir, is my screen visible? Vilas sir? Pragati ma'am?
Okay, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can we see the full screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, madam.
Yes. So thank you very much. You can mute your audio device, sir. Hello? Okay, sir. Yes. So today, dear students, we are going to deal with the Unit 3 poetry section, which is taken from Major 5, BA Sem 3, and the poem entitled Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitri. Let me begin with my presentation. Dear students, before we begin with the poem, I just want to churn the thought processing or a brainstorming your minds to know why we need to read a poem, or say what is the use of reading a poem. Does it have any relevance in our daily lives? What is the aim of reading a poem? These questions need to be considered. Then only we'll be able to enjoy the true essence and the fragrance of a poem. So, dear students, here some useful tips, or say some advice or suggestions to know why a poem we need to read and understand. So, let us start with a basic definition of a poem, which can be explained from the lines of the famous poet William Wordsworth in his preface to the lyrical ballad. He says that poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. These feelings can be emotional. These feelings can be emotional. In the overflow of feeling, the poet needs language to express the emotions. Also, at the same time, the poem has to be compact in expression, sometimes keeping in mind the rhythm and the sound. It also reflects the cultural and historical connections of the poet in the age in which he belongs. So these are the basic things which one need to understand before reading any of the poem. Usually a poet draw inspiration from the wide array of sources like nature, society and culture, relationship, arts and literature, dreams and imagination, philosophical and spiritual questions too. In the same way, the first important element which we come to know, which we should know before reading a poem, is that how far this poem is emotional, how deep the poem is emotional. So let us see. Whenever you read a poem, first try to understand the emotional depth of the poem as they capture moment of joy, sorrow, or wonder, often evoking a strong emotional response. So whenever you see a poet, he is very much, when he is emotional, then only the thoughts it comes in the minds, and the way he expresses in the poem, his emotions are seen in the poem. So while reading a poem, one should also keep in mind what poetic devices are employed in the poem, like imagery, metaphor, rhyme, etc. Writing a poem is like a watertight compartment. It is very rigid, because it is not lengthy as a novel or any text. It is short and condensed form. At the same time, conveying the profound ideas or stories, keeping intact the brevity that forces the readers to slow down to uncover the layers of meaning, offering a meditative or a reflective experiences. So, poem is short, but if the poem is short, we cannot predict that the meaning is also short, because a single poem can cover the entire panorama of the life experiences also. So, writing a poem is a very Herculean task, because in a very short form you have to make the entire meaning available in that. So that is why we have to keep the brevity also in our minds. In the same way, music and the sound has also a magnificent effect on a poem. You see, that is the reason when we are small, when we were child, in our schools, our teachers used to make us recite the poem by using the elements like rhymes, sounds, actions, and all. So it creates a deep impact. So in the same way, in any of the poem, first the rhythm and sound is one of the important feature that we must understand. In fact, the poem invite readers to bring their own perspectives and ideas to make the reading unique and personal too. So, reading poems connect us to human experiences across time and culture, from ancient epics to modern verses, fostering a sense of shared humanity. So, these are the qualities, or you can say these are the fundamentals of why we should know as whenever we read a poem, which provoked the poet to write the poem. Here we see Dilip Chitre. He is one of the greatest poets in Indian literature. Dilip Chitre was born in Baroda on 17th September 1938 into a Marathi speaking family. He grew up in Mumbai, where he published his first collection called Kavita in 1960. Dilip Chitre is a pioneering bilingual poet and a translator. Chitre wrote fluently in both Marathi and English. He co-founded Marathi poetry journal Shabda in the year 1954 to 60, and later served as a director of Indian Poetry Library, convening international festivals that fosters literary exchanges. His poetry marked His poetry is marked by modernist sensibilities and themes of urban alienation and existential estrangement, brought a cosmopolitan perspective to Marathi letters by evoking a polyphony of Bombay's city life. Chitre is regarded as a writer of stature in both Marathi and English traditions, and his bilingual career bridged English and Marathi literary traditions alike. So he is a writer both in English as well as in Marathi. That is why he is called as a bilingual poet. Dilip Chitra is considered as a modern poet. This can be asserted from the theme of isolation in his poem Father Returning Home. This poem speaks of isolation because the poem describes a word weary father returning home from work. Yet he doesn't return to warmth and companionship often found in a home. He instead returns to home to isolation. His own feelings of isolation appear to be the product of exhaustion from his work weary life. So, uh, third, yes. Before going to the before understanding the poem, first we'll have a background of how what is the father figure of our own life. That means how you see your father. For example, me myself, if I see my father, I feel that he is the superman of my life. So everyone thinks that his father is a superman of his, because whatever problem we have, we feel that our father can solve it. So right from the childhood, we see our father as one of the superman of our life. So it depends upon the way your father take you, whether he cares you and everything. He nurtures. Father, he always nurtures a child, and he is an idol to a child. So that is why a child always see father as a superman. But in this, Dilip Chitre has a different perspective towards his father. uh, this poem is quite pathetic because he is showing he is showcasing the pathetic condition of his father. He is not showing his father as very, you can say, like a superman, or you can say like a very strong person. He's showing his father personality to be very timid, very weak, very fragile, very much tired, and surrounded with all the metropolis and all. So why this happened? For one person, a father is like a superman, but for Dilip Chitre, if we see, his father's image is quite different. So let us try to see in the course of the poem why the poet has portrayed his father not as a superman but in a very pity and very pathetic conditions. So why? Maybe the background that the father belonged in the city of urbanization, where he is so much of surrounded with all the daily routines, and all the work exposure is so much burdensome that it tempts the poet to figure out his father in a very pathetic conditions. So in the course of the poem, let us see how Dilip Chitre has portrayed the poet, his father, in which condition, whether in a pathetic condition or whether he is very happy and very jolly and all. So I don't feel there is a part of any jolly or something in the poet, because the father here is shown in a very piteous condition. So let us see about the poet Dilip Chitre. Yes, this we have completed. His major collections. So here are a few major collections of Dilip Chitre. Few of his works are jotted down here. His major work comprises of Traveling in a Cage, which is published in the year 1980. Then again, his another work, As Is Where Is, in the year 2008. And another influential work, Shesha, in the year 2008. He has also had the translational works, and these translational works include Tuka, which is written in the year 1991, which is an English rendition of Tukaram's verses. Another translation work is Jnaneshwar Anubhav Amrut, which was written in the year 1996. His major collection includes Kavita Nantarcha Kavita in the year 1978, and the three-volume Ekun Kavita, which is called as a collected poem, in the year 1992. His collected poetry won the Sahitya Academy Award. Yes. His collected poem won the Sahitya Academic Award in the year 1994. Yes. So he was being honored with the Sahitya Academy Award for the translation of the work in the year 1994. Now let us move on to the themes, major theme of the poem, The Father Returning Home. So here are some major themes. You see that the theme of alienation and isolation, the same way generational divide, then aging and vulnerability, and criticizing or critic of urbanization. So when you see the themes, we feel that this poem is not a kind of celebration. It is a kind of what you can say, regretting the urban city, or the urban city. The father is so much preoccupied with so much of work and task, so that is why the father may be feeling very alienated, isolated, and again the children's, they might not be giving time to their father. So therefore again there is a kind of generational divide. So these themes we are going to see in details. The writer deals with some major themes while writing a poem, Father Returning Home. These major themes, which I have read here, are so before studying or understanding these themes, let us know a review of other poets also. It is not that these themes are only associated with this poet. There are these themes are also seen in the other poets also, like T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, where he see it is a modern poet, and again there is a kind of you can say urbanization over there. Again, the poet is giving a call back to the nature. In the same way, you can see other modernist themes. It resonates. So this theme is resonating in other poems also. Uh, One of the most lively example of these themes based on an old age is very aptly observed in Bollywood Hindi films like Bagban and Piku. So these are the Bollywood films where the father figure is being portrayed not as a celebrity, not as a very vibrant and like a super personality. Here again, they are shown in a very pathetic conditions. So I just taken these two pictures as a case study to make you understand that how this father figure are portrayed. So both the in the Bollywood film movie like Bagban and Piku, that talks about the relationship of old parents and their caregiving adult children. The narrative of caregiving and intergenerational conflict is explored in both the films, but from a different perspective. Like Bagban is a story. In Bagban, we can see Amitabh Bachchan and Hema Malini. So they feel that after the retirement, Amitabh Bachchan feels that I have got the four sons. They are not four sons. They are for me like a four fixed deposit. He says like that, but the story is different because their sons they mistreat, they don't treat good with their parents. So whatever the dreams Amitabh Bachchan had towards their son after their retirement, post retirement, but it was completely different. So his dreams were shattered, and therefore these couple, Amitabh and Hema Malini, they feel a kind of alienation and isolation being in their own family. Okay, so such kind of isolation themes are reflected in our poem, in the Dilip Chitre's poem also. So here again we'll see the Pico is a story. It is an independent where Deepika Padukone, she is an independent single woman, and she is only responsible for her old father's care. And that is why she don't marry, and she totally sacrifices her life to take care of his old parents. So here the perspective of father is different from that. The main theme of these two movies is to show the changing attitudes in the modern generation towards the old people and caregiving by their adult children to aging parents when needed. Yes. So let us try to analyze the theme of the poem Father Returning Home. The first basic theme is isolation, alienation, and isolation. So, first we will deal with the theme of alienation and isolation. The central theme is the father's profound loneliness in both public and private space. So he's not only feeling isolated in public but also in private. Why it is said in private? Let us see in the course of the poem why he has said that he's feeling isolated even in his private life also. His travel is crowded in Mumbai trains, isolate him amid the bustle, which expressed in the fourth line in the coming lines of the poem, standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. Uh, this line is this is the fourth line of the poem. So this line actually represents that the writer here elevates personal isolation to the universal critic of modernity, where industrialization and urban life disconnect individuals from community and its meaning. Look at the difference between the Wordsworth. He's a nature poet. He has born and brought up in the surrounding of nature, and he's so much what you can say emphasis all the elements of nature in such a wonderful way. And now you see, now we are living in a neoclassical what you can say, we are living in a modern age, and where we are surrounded with all the luxuries and all the you can say infrastructures and everything. But does it giving comfort? No. Here the poet is feeling alienated and isolated despite everything. Modernism is there. So you can see the variation between the theme of the Wordsworth, how he is surrounded with the nature and how he feels the solace among the nature. And now here Dilip Chitre, he's surrounded, his father is surrounded with so much of urbanization. So this is a transition in the age which we see. So whenever you read a poem, you need to compare and contrast the ages also. It gives a different pleasure while reading a poem in this way by contrasting and comparing the age and culture. So here it is important to note in this theme at this juncture, in the trauma of isolation, and isolation is a serious and increasingly prevalent issues among the older generation today. They are linked to the factors like loss of family and friends, declining health, and societal changes such as decline of joint families. This alienation and loneliness significantly harm the mental and physical health, increasing risk for depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, heart diseases, and even premature death. So these are the reasons. So it is a very grave situation for the parents who are in the older generations, and so we have to take care about them. We have to, we should treat them very amiable in a very friendly manner. So we should understand their background, and we have to repay. This is the old age is the time when we get a golden chance to repay our debts, because they brought us enough they brought us in this life. So they gave birth to this life. They are only the person who gave us life to see, to enjoy. So at this time of old age, when they need the help and we don't provide them help, or so such things should not happen in our life also. So this poem also gives a message that we should be very much friendly and very much caring towards our parents also. Next, generation divide. The poem reflects the rift between the father, rooted in traditional values, and his modern, urbanized children. The children's sullenness and refusal engage to suggest a lack of appreciation for father's sacrifice. So this what is shown here, possibly reflecting Chitre's own regret as an adult looking back. So everyone, this cycle, it is a nature cycle. Now we feel that we are good, we are young, we are energetic, everything. But the time will come. You will again, in the passage of time, you will be in the place of the older generation. So that is why we have to make we should have the feeling of empathy towards the older generation. Then only you can this generational divide can be we can curtail the divide of the generation. That is why. So this generational gap mirrors India's post-colonial transition, where younger generation embraced modernity, often leaving behind the old generation values. See, students, the primary difference in moral values causing a generation gap often centers on the importance of respect for elders and authority, loyalty, and tradition versus individual freedom and innovation, and formal versus digital communication style. So we know that they are slow, their age was different, and their taste was different, their area of interest was different. But try to indulge in them, try to look at them from their own perspectives. Uh, uh, you cannot give an ocean of love, but at least a drop of love, if you give, that is more enough for them. So the older generation often emphasize discipline and respect for their established customs, because they respect their customs, and but the younger generation, they tend to prioritize their personal autonomies. They want that what is their personal that has to be with everyone. But this doesn't happen. Every person has their own taste of interest. So the writer here is trying to showcase this particular aspect of generational divide in his poem. Now, age and vulnerability. The father's physical and emotionally frailty is recurring a motif. His the various sort of words are used in the poem, like the various words like the soggy clothes, the worn out chapels, the trembling hands, which described in the poem. These words are described in first to second line of the poem, and these words, the underscores, it shows the exhaustive work of the poet. It is not that the poet is feeling very happy to write about the father's figure. Probably he might be having his heart very much filled in while writing this poem, because writing a negative, as what you can say, the dark side of your own parent, is really, when you write something, probably your hands will shake. So probably the poet, the Dilip Chitre, he might also be feeling very sorrow while writing this autobiography of his father in this form of poem. So the aspect of aging and vulnerability, this kind of theme is also can be seen in the famous poet W.B. Yeats in his poem, which is entitled "When You Are Old." This poem, which is taken from W.B. Yeats, this also showcase the same element of aging and vulnerability. Here, the poem features about the aging body, often symbolizing the fading of youth and beauty with water, and a struggle to find a permanence in art and self. So perhaps we can see such kind of reflection of the aspect of old age in Chitra's poem with W.B. Yeats, the greatest poet of 20th century modern age. The theme of urbanization. This is also one of the important factor in the poem. This critic of urbanization in the poem Father Figure sets against Mumbai monsoon soaked. In the recent current affair, YouTube also, how the Mumbai is flooded with water. The entire city is now full filled with the rain, heavy rains and all. So every trains are crowded. All the metropolis are very much, you see, they're very much shattered in the crowded trains. So the same reflection which the poet Dilip Chitre he showcased in the year 1960. This poem was composed in the year 1960. So the same scenario of modern age is prevailing now also. So you can see that the urbanization still prevails. The pangs of urbanization still prevails in the current time also. So it is important to note here that while urbanization brings economic opportunity, it also leads to worker exploitation, environmental degradation, and cultural alienation. Perhaps the darker side of urbanization that leads to exploitation, alienation, and social conflicts, rather than the brighter side of urbanization that leads to the progress, opportunity, and modernity. Yes. My dear students, before studying any piece of literature, it is necessary to study the cultural and historical context, or say the background, because it reveals the societal issues, political events, and cultural norms that influenced the poetic creativity, poetic sensibility, providing a crucial insight towards the poet's message, theme, and the choices of the language which he employs. And if we fail to neglect this historical context, suppose if we don't read the background of the history or the culture of the poem, what will happen? Nothing will happen. But when we read that poem very blankly without historical context, the poem which you're reading, you will be misunderstanding, or you may be oversimplifying the poem's significance, as literature is not created in a vacuum but by the world in which it is written. So that is why we need to understand the historical concept also. So let us try to see the central idea of the poem Father Returning Home. Father Returning Home by Dilip Chitre first appeared in his influential English poetry collection, Traveling in a Cage, in the year 1980. The poem poignantly portrays an elderly father's solitary journey home through the bustling, impersonal landscape of urban India, epitomizing themes of alienation, generational isolation, and existential estrangement. Chitre illustrate the physical exhaustion and emotional neglect experienced by the father, capturing the nuanced melancholy of rooting and unnoticed existence. The poem is about an old man who has got a family, but his children do not look after him. With the age, he has grown weak, yet he persists in carrying out his daily chores uncomplainingly. A radio and his dream about his ancestors and grandchildren's are perhaps his only source of consolation. So he needs some kind of solace, he needs a kind of consolation to satisfy his, what you can say, to satisfy himself. So he cannot see his mode of satisfaction among the children's, among the peers, among his colleagues. So where is finding the satisfaction? He's getting satisfaction with the radio which he is accompanied with, and with the dreams about his ancestors and grandchildren's. So these are the source of consolation. So how pathetic the condition of this father may be, that he is trying to take the source of radio and the source of memory to make himself happy instead of the person who are physically present in before their eyes. So this is a really very grave situation, and really it feels what you can say, it gives a very disheartened our minds and our hearts also. So this should not happen with any of the person, and if you're surrounded with such situation, please try to maintain humanitarian, please try to maintain humanity. So basically, it is about an aged man's estrangement from a man made world. More importantly, from his own children. So this is really very pathetic. The man has grown old, hasn't found any relief from his tough physical day to day work. The rainy season seems to make things even more difficult for him. Yet he endures all without a sound, without any complaint. He endures everything. His description arouses pity within us. However, the poem addresses the broader social transformation occurring in post independent India, where rapid urbanization and modernization have intensified the sense of detachment and profound reflection on aging. Chitre provides here an urban provides a portrait of how the urban living is, how the way of it's important. Its importance as literary work lies in its authentic depiction of human vulnerability and urban anonymity, resonating universality universally and contributing significantly to the Indian English poetry. So here we see my travel. Yes, we will see explanation of the line. So first we have seen the central idea. We have gone to the cultural context. We have gone through the theme. Before getting into the line by line explanation of the poem, I hope you might be much aware of what is the background of the poet, what are the historical context of the poem, and what is the central idea of the poem, how the themes are dealt in the poem. So now I feel after studying the entire background, we will try to enjoy the pleasure by reading the line by line explanation of this poem. So here, the lines of the poem: My father travels on the late evening train, standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. Suburbs slide past his unseeing eyes. His shirt and pants are soggy, and his black raincoat stained with mud, and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. So the poem with the picture, it shows the daily life, daily routine of the his father. The father is coming home, which suggests he has a long and a tiring work day. This first line immediately gives a feeling of exhaustion. It gives a feeling of frustration and tiredness. Then the second line, which is standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. So this shows that the father is standing in the train. The father is standing, he's not sitting, which shows that his journey seemed to be more uncomfortable. He's surrounded with the commuters. Commuters means people who travel to and fro from the daily to work every day, but they are all silent. This silence show that nobody is talking to each other, creating a feeling of isolation even in the crowd. You can see the Mumbai metros, how much jam packed it is, and how much noisy and how much polluted it is. But in that, the father, he's feeling isolated. So you can see the depth of isolation, how much intensely Chitre has portrayed that being in a crowded area, still his father is feeling very isolated. So this again is an irony of situation. And here the term yellow light is depicted in the second line. It indicates inside the train is not bright or welcoming. The yellow light means it is not bright, and it is not like a welcoming rays towards us. It makes the scene looks very dull and unfriendly. So you see that yellow light is also a backdrop which is adding to the pathetic condition of his father. So when something is gloom, even the imageries also will look gloom. So the nature, it plays its own role, you know. So yellow light is also adding a kind of pathetic emotions in Chitre's father. So that is why he's feeling alienated and he very much gloomy. And the yellow light is also supporting his gloom. The third line, suburb slide past his unseen eyes. This line indicates that as the train moves, the scenery of the suburbs. What is suburbs? Suburb means residential areas around the city. When you go in a train, you look out of the window, you see the other things outside the city. So that we can term as suburbs. So the scenery of suburbs passes by, but the father does not seem to see it. Father is not interested to see in it. The description unseeing eyes means that he is not paying attention to the world around him. He is completely absorbed in his own thoughts, which shows how disconnected he is from his environment. He is present in body, but his mind is far away. So this is again, this pathetic condition is very intensely portrayed by Dilip Chitra. Really, it gives a goosebumps because we cannot think that our father in this way. Really, do we keep Dilip Chitra's father's image in front of our father? Never, never. At least myself, I can never see like this. Not even my father. Even the old person who is in our surrounding, we cannot see because it gives, it disheartens us. We cannot see. So this poem, while studying, really you might be feeling very much, agony, very much gloomy in your minds. So still we need to continue. Yes. Now here you see, one second. Yes. In the fourth to sixth line, his shirts and pants are soggy, and his black raincoat stained with mud, and his bag stuffed with books is falling apart. So these lines gives a very clear image of father's worn out conditions. Look, again the nature is playing the role of showing the pathetic condition of the father in the form of the dressing sense also. His clothes are soggy, that means wet and damp, likely from the train, and his raincoat is stained with mud. This shows he has a different. This shows that he might had a very difficult journey. His bag is full of books, but it is old and falling apart. These details of soggy, then what falling apart, these details suggest that the father himself is very tired, very worn out by life, just like his belongings. Yes, in these lines I read out, his eyes dimmed by age, face homeward through the humid monsoon night. Now I can see him getting off the train like a word dropped from a long silence. He hurries across the length of the grey platform, crosses the railway line, enters the lane. His chappals are sticky with mud, but he hurries forward. His eyes dimmed by age. Yes, this line, the are described as dimmed by age, which points to his old age and lack of energy. The word fade, which is used instead of travel or go, which suggests he is returning to home slowly. Look, if someone is waiting for us at a home, the person automatically drive fastly rush towards the home. But here there is no kind of rush of his parent. He is returning home slowly, without any enthusiasm, as if he is gradually disappearing. The humid word which is depicted here, it means it is very damp and heavy. The humid air of the monsoon night adds a heavy and a cheerful feeling in his journey. Now, so again, the monsoon is also adding further, what you can say, things to his gloomy condition. So that is why the condition is also, the weather is also very humid. So it is reciprocating with the conditions, inner pathetic condition of the writer's father. Now I can see him getting off the train like a word dropped from a long sentence. Yes. Here, the narrator of the poem, who is the father's child, to speak directly. The father is compared to a word dropped from a long sentence. This is a smile that shows how long and unimportant the father seems, just as a single word lost from the long centric might not be noticed. The father's presence seemed to have very little meaning or impact in large busy world around him. He hurries across the length of the grey platform, crosses the railway line, enters the lane. His chapels are sticky with mud, but he hurries onwards. These lines describe the father's automatic and repeated action as he walks home. The platform is grey, a color that suggests a lack of happiness and also a lack of life. His chapel smith slippers are covered in mud, showing the difficulty of his walk, even though he is tired and path is messy. He hurries onward. This term suggests that he is moving out of habit or duty, not because he is excited to be in home, but it is a habit of, it is his habit. Okay. Home, yes. Now the further lines. Now, home again. I see him drinking tea, eating a stale chapati, reading a book. He goes into a toilet to contemplate man's estrangement from a man-made world. Coming out, he trembles at the sink, the cold water running over his brown hands. A few droplets cling to the graying hairs on his wrist. The line home again, I see him drinking water tea. This indicates that father's life seems just as joyless and monotonous. He has simple meal of weak tea that is also served in a week, and chapati that is also not very fresh. It is a stale chapati. So this food is not fresh or satisfying, and it represents the lack of comfort and a pleasure in the daily existence. His only activity we find is reading a book by himself, which shows he's still isolated even within his own house. And again, the line, he goes into the toilet to contemplate man's estrangement from man-made world. So here you see this word indicates that the father retreats to toilet as a private and a lonely space. So that is why in the very first slide we have seen that the poet, he is not only feeling isolated in public but also in private. So this term exactly is depicted here, that even in the toilet where it is a lonely place, there also the father is feeling a kind of isolation, and he's feeling it is a lonely space to think, and he feels that that place is a kind of meditation for him. He's thinking over there for a longer time. So why he should think in the toilet? Why can't he think in his bedroom? So he want to escape from himself and is not finding a place work. So he's getting into the washroom and he's trying to contemplate, he's trying to solace, he's trying to meditate over there. So this shows really a very pathetic condition of his father. Here the word estrangement is a feeling of being disconnected. He's thinking about how modern life, which people have created, has made individuals feel separated from each other and from the world itself. What he contemplates, we are not told. the poet is contemplating, the poet's father is contemplating in the washroom, in the toilet, but what he is contemplating, it is not written in the poet, it is not mentioned. But this image of the old man in the toilet brooding over his neglected state, perhaps over his thankless children, maybe he's contemplating perhaps over his thankless children, fills us with a strong sense of pity and compassion for him. What's the most pitiful about his state is, in fact, that even though he has got the family, he is surrounded with children and everyone, he lives a life of utter neglect at his own home among his two children. Then the line, coming out, he trembles at a sink. Few droplets cling to the graying hairs on his wrist. These line indicates that when he comes out, his physical weakness is apparent. The word trembles here shows that he is old and physically weak. The father, he washes the water with which he washes his hand, the water is very cold, which offers no warmth or comfort. Even in the urbanization, you might be having what you can say hot water in your washrooms and all, but still in such an old age he is washing his hand in a cold water. It shows the discomfort even in the sphere of urbanization. The image of water drops on the graying hairs of his wrists is very specific and very detailed. Look how detailing the shadings the poet has portrayed here. The graying hairs on his wrist is it is giving a very specific details about the poet's father that shows that he is aging, and it is a moment of close observation by his child. Yes. His sullen children have refused to share jokes and secrets with him. He will not go to sleep listening to the static on the radio, dreaming of his ancestors and grandchildren, thinking of nomads entering a subcontinent through a narrow space. So I had told previously also that he just want to satisfy himself. So that is why he is using the medium of radio and the memories of his ancestors to make solace, to make himself satisfied. So this is reflected in this same line. Yes. Now let us see to have what kind of poetic devices which the poet has employed. So here are some poetic devices like imagery and symbolism. The poet has used imagery and symbolism. Chitra uses vivid sensory details to evoke pity and introspection. The cold water life's harness and impermanence, while the dark room, the radio suggests a outdated existence overshadowed by the vibrant world outside. The reality, a nomadic, unbound life of father yearns for escaping family burdens and urban drudgery. Yes. Now the examples here I have jotted down. What poetic devices in the poem Father Returning Home is depicted here. So here we'll find a few examples, like example 1, from a long sentence. What poetic device here the poet has used? This line indicates simile. Simile are used sparingly but effectively to draw comparison that deepen the emotional impact. The explanation of this line, when you're justifying that it is a simile, how you can justify telling that this simile poignantly captures significant and forgotten, as if he is inconsequential part of the larger narrative. Then in the example 2, my father travels on late evening train, standing among silent commuters in the yellow light. What kind of a poetic device he used? Here he used the device imagery as a poetic device. Chitre here employed vivid visual imagery to paint a picture of father's monotonous and lonely existence. How can you justify that this imagery is written in this line? So the way you need to say is that the silent commuters create a dreary, lifeless atmosphere, emphasizing a father's isolation in the crowd. Again, few examples. Here, his eyes dimmed by age, fade homeward through the humid monsoon night. What kind of device is used here? Metaphor is used. The writer uses metaphors to deepen the portrayal of father's life and emotional state. How could you justify that a metaphor is used here? So you need to say that the father's dimming eyes metaphorically represent his fading vitality and connection to the world, while the humid monsoon night suggests an oppressive, heavy environment mirroring the turmoil. So again, the fourth example, you can see here, the Chitre, he has used alliteration. Alliteration, you know, the letter SS is repeated. Poetic techniques. The question here is, what poetic technique is present in Sticky with Mud? The answer which we can say is that the writer here employed the poetic technique of imagery, specifically a tactile imagery. Word sticky enhances this effect, conveying a sense of discomfort, heaviness, which aligns with the poet's portrayal of father's very burdensome existence. Yes. In the conclusion, we have gone through the line by line explanation. We have gone through the various kind of poetic devices, like the examples of similes, metaphors, imagery, alliteration. These everything there it is given over there. Now, coming to the conclusion, we can say that the poet criticizes that how modern life erodes family bonds, yet hints at solace in memory lane and imagination. The poet's transition from simple commute description into universal meditation on neglect and resilience. The ending deepens the poet's exploration of isolation. The father physical trembling and unshared meal illustrate the bodily and emotional frailty in old age. The unappreciated children represents a generational divide where the father's sacrifices go unnoticed, leading to regret from the speaker's adult perspective. The message that the poet conveys is that of the seclusion of man from the modern world. In today's fast paced and humdrum life, the only solace that a man can find is his dreams of the past or the future. The poem also communicates the apathy of the of the society towards the elderly who are trying to cope with estrangement in a metropolis. Overall, the poem is the speciality of the poem is its simplicity, which conveys a strong message to the reader. Some of the opinions which I suggest that elders, specifically parents, have a lifetime of accumulated experience and wisdom. So their wisdom is very wise, they have a long term experiences. So listening to them, valuing their opinions, provides a guidance and enriches our lives and perspective and makes our life really worth. This helps to build a very harmonious family environment, strengthen the cultural and ethical imperative. If we value their opinion, we can build a better society and sustain a reciprocal relationship. So, here I end up with my presentation, and I hope you have enjoyed this poem. Happy learning, students. So, moving On to Vilas sir. Hello Vilas sir.
Yes.
I have ended with my presentation.
Dr. Meenakshi ma'am have highlighted the issues of elderly persons, and she has also highlighted the generational gap. So thank you so much, Dr. Meenakshi Basnim ma'am, for enlightening our dear student with your exhaustive and informative presentation. Despite your busy schedule, you still share your valuable time to us. Special thanks to you, ma'am. And we would be honored to have more of your session in the coming future. Thank you very much, ma'am, once again.
Thank you sir. So I hope Shamim sir has joined. You can introduce Shamim sir. Good morning Shamim sir.
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, I have shared my PPT on your email ID. So as I
Okay.
have requested you in the morning
Yes,
that you
I'll
have
be
shared
sharing.
it and moved the
Yes,
slide,
yes.
and I'm going to make the
Yes.
presentation.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, you can introduce me. I'm ready.
Yes. For this second session, we are elated to have a very erudite scholar and a very hardworking and dedicated resource person, Professor Abdul Shamin, with us. I welcome you, sir, in today's session. Let me introduce to you Professor Abdul Shamin, sir. Professor Abdul Shamin sir is working as an assistant professor of English at Renigo College, Besa, Nagpur. Sir has 8 years of teaching experience and he is pursuing his doctorate PhD degree on the topic multiculturalism in the fictions of Rohington mystery from the RTMN Nagpur University. He has published the 12 research papers in the nationals and international journals of repute and presented the papers in various nationals and international conferences as well. Sir is a IQAC coordinator of his college. With a great honor, I invite Professor Abdul Shamin sir to deal with his presentations on the topic If We Must Die by the Claude McKay from Unit 3 Poetry section. It's over to you, Shamin sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. Good morning to one and all. Now the topic which has been allotted to me is from Unit 3rd, Paper 6th, If You Must Die, a poem written by Claude McKay. Madam, can you play my slide?
Yes,
Meenakshi
sir.
ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'm sharing.
उस दिन आपने मुझे कोई का लाइन है लेकिन जब तुम मेजर ना तो मेजर उसको चाहिए उस दिन सोशियोलॉजी में 8 या 9 समथिंग कुछ दिए थे वो रिलेटेड तो आप मराठी में सिर्फ एक ही था शायद फिर इधर एडजस्ट करो प्लीज इधर एडजस्ट करना है नहीं इधर शायद दो तो इधर एडजस्ट करना होगा तो ये मेजर का एडमिशन हाँ वो और वो एडमिशन आई तो उन्होंने क्या किया
Okay, madam, it is visible. Now, as I have told you, that the topic which has been allotted to me is from Unit 3rd, If You Must Die. It has been prescribed in the syllabus of BS second year, semester 3, in the paper of meter English, paper 6, in Unit 3rd. Madam, move the slide. The poem today which we are going to discuss is If We Must Die, written by Claude McKay. Before we begin the poem, it's very important for us to know about Claude McKay. Madam, next slide. We are going to see about the poet Claude McKay. Claude McKay was born in a small village in Clarendon called Sunnyville in the year 1889 in Jamaica. Madam, my slide is not visible. Ma'am? Meenakshi ma'am?
Yes, I'm sharing. 1 second, sir.
create. It's really quality.
When I come to third slide, and third, previous one. Madam, go in full slide. Next one, madam, next one. Okay. As I have told you that the great African American poet Claude McKay was born in the year 1889 in a small village called Sunnyville in Jamaica. He got his early education at Mount Zion Church. He received his elementary school in Clarendon, Jamaica. His elder brother, Uriah Mackay, was a school teacher who introduced him to the world of English literature. He was a very bright student. So he got the mentor, Walter Jekyll, who mentored him, who inspired him to write poetry. He started writing poetry, and in the year 1912, he got the scholarship from the government of Jamaica, and for his higher education, he went to the United States of America. He won the scholarship from the government of Jamaica, and for his higher education, he went to the United States of America in the year 1912 in Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. But he found the situation in that institute not suitable for him because there was a racial problem of social injustice. So he moved to Kansas State University. But still, he could not complete his higher education and he went to pursue his literary career. Next slide, madam. Now, we are going to see his literary contribution and awards. As I have told you that he was a bright student. So he received his scholarship from the government of Jamaica and went to the United States of America to receive his higher education. First in Tuskegee University, but he found the situation not favorable for them, so he moved to Kansas State University, but still he could not complete his education and moved to Harlem for his literary career. As his mentor, Walter Jekyll, always inspired and motivated him to write, and he wrote his collections of poems, Songs of Jamaica, in the year 1912, and Construct Ballads again in 1912, and he wrote in his Jamaican dialect. Then, in the year 1922, he wrote Harlem Shadows. It is a collection of poems. The poem today, which we are going to discuss, If You Must Die, that also later collected in the collection of poems Harlem Shadows, that was published in the year 1922. Then he wrote 5 novels. His first novel was Home to Harlem, that won him the Harriman Foundation Award. In the year 1928, Banjo, A Story Without a Plot in 1929, Banana Bottom in 1933. Madam, next slide. Now, in the previous slide, we came across the word Harlem repeatedly. Harlem Shadows, Home to Harlem. So it is very important for us to understand the meaning of Harlem. Harlem is a name of a place in New York, and most of the people of his community lived in Harlem, particularly the African Americans. They lived there. There, then the next word is Renaissance, that is the revival or rebirth. So the people of his community started taking renewed interest in art and culture. So that became the place for a cultural movement. And that movement started from 1910 to the midst of the 1930s. Most of the people of his community got involved in the writings, painting, literature, music, because they want to celebrate their African American culture. So the movement arose as African American because most of the African Americans started moving from the south of America to the northern part of America because of the persecution from the whites, as the law is known as Jim Crow law, which segregates people. So they wanted to seek opportunity to get freedom. They started moving from the south of America to the north. So Harlem became the epicenter of creativity with flourishing poetry, literature, music, especially jazz music, painting, and intellectual thought. So that is the connection of Maclay with Harlem Renaissance. Next, ma'am. Next slide. Now we are going to discuss about what is the role of Maclay in the Harlem Renaissance. Maclay is a very prominent figure when we talk about Harlem Renaissance, along with Langston Hughes, Zora Hurston. Claude McKay became a foundation of Harlem Renaissance through his writing. He advocates for Black identity and protesting against the racial injustice. If We Must Die, first published in the year 1919, in the month of July, in The Liberator, and later it was collected in the collections of poem Harlem Shadow in 1922. So here you can understand the relation of Mackay with Harlem Renaissance. And Harlem Shadows is considered as one of the first books of Harlem Renaissance that inspired the people of his community, the African Americans, to fight against their oppressors, the white. His first novel, Home to Harlem, is considered as the first novel written by a Black American, and it has become a bestseller. So that is the role of Maclay with Harlem Renaissance. Even the poem which we are going to discuss right now, If You Must Die, is written under the influence of the cultural movement Harlem Renaissance. Next slide, ma'am. Now it is very important for us when we read any poem to understand the historical background of the poem. Right now we have discussed about the Harlem Renaissance. It was a cultural movement, and Maclay became the prominent figure of Harlem Renaissance. It is a kind of a movement for the Afro-Americans, the African Americans, to manifest their culture, art, literature, in order to get rid away from the social injustice. It was written in the Red Summer of 19 19. Now, it has become very important for us to understand what is the Red Summer of 1919. In the year 1919, Madam, next slide. Madam, next slide. The racial violence broke out all of a sudden in the year 1919. There are certain causes of Red Summer 1919. First, when the First World War broke out, so most of the whites left their jobs and joined the military. When the war ended, they returned to their homeland and they started looking for the jobs. But when they went to get their jobs, they found that the jobs were already filled by the African Americans. So after the First World War, post-World War, the whites started facing the problem of job, and it created a social tension. Then when the second reason was of the Great Migration, when the whites, they went for the First World War, so they left the job. So the African Americans started moving from the south of America to the north of America, and they filled the job of the whites. So when the whites returned after the First World War, they found that there were no jobs for them. They found it very difficult to get jobs. They also faced the problem of housing. So it created a feeling of resent in them against the African Americans. So they started the racial violence against the African Americans. Next slide. That is why there were series of racial violence from April to November 1919. The summer of 1919 became red with the bloodshed of the African Americans. They were brutally attacked, lynched, and murdered by the whites. So there were violence around 36 cities of the United States of America. Cities like Chicago, Washington, D.C., Omaha. Madam, next slide. The African Americans were brutally killed and murdered. Their houses were burned. Their business places were burned to ashes. And they lost their life. In Chicago, 38 African Americans lost their life. In Washington, D.C. and in Allen, there was a massacre. Near about 102 to 237 African Americans lost their life. But at the same point of time, when the racial violence broke out between the whites and the non-whites, the African Americans, they were also trying to resist because they also returned from the First World War. They participated in the World War. They felt very proud because they participated and they defended their country, and they thought that they were also going to get equal part in the various aspects of society. But when they got social injustice, so they got disheartened. And they started resisting for their rights. That is the whole background of this poem. That is why the cloud of Red Summer 1919 made the writer Claude Mackay to pen this poem under the influence of Harlem Renaissance. Madam, next slide. Now we are going to see the poetic form of the poem. The poem is written in the form of sonnet. Sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. The word sonnet has been derived from the Italian word soneto, which means a little sound or strain. It is written in the form of the Shakespearean sonnet, in which there are 14 lines, but the 14 lines are divided into 3 quatrains. Each quatrain consists of 4 lines. So there are 3 quatrains in the Shakespearean sonnet, followed by a couplet. And the rhyming scheme of the Shakespearean sonnet is A B A B, C D C D, E F E F G G. There is also a caesura. What is caesura? It is a pause or break within a line of the poetry, and it is marked by punctuation like period, comma, dash, to give the poem a creative rhythm or for the poet to emphasize his point. Madam, next slide. Now we are going to see what is the theme. What is the theme of the poem? The theme, as I have told you, that it was written under the background of the Red Summer of 1919, when there was a bloodshed. The African Americans were brutally murdered and killed. They also returned by taking the part for the country, so they felt determined that they were going to get
प्रशांत मनोज कुमार नायक कोणत्या वर्षाचा आहे हो हा आधार कार्ड जोडून दिलं बस 12वी कॉमर्स
the social justice and killed. They also in their struggle.
मी पण 12वी छात्रचा हा कॉमर्स का रेगुलर
They became collective in their struggle and they fought with dignity in order to get social justice. This is the theme of the poem. And next slide. Now we are going to talk about the language of the poem. First, we have talked about the historical background of the poem, that it is written under the cloud of the Red Summer of 1919, when the racial violence broke out in the United States of America and most of the black lost their lives. Then we have seen the theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is based on the struggle and resistance of the African Americans. Now we are going to see the language of the poem. The language which has been used by the poet, it's very powerful. When we are going to read the poem, you can understand that the poem is very short and it is direct. Direct address is made to his oppressors, people of his community, the oppressed. The poet has used vivid imagery. Words are used in such a way that they create mental picture before our eyes. Animal imagery, hungry dogs, like hawks. The poet has also employed imperative conditional mood, if we must die, that creates certain urgency. Then there is a juxtaposition of formal and passionate diction to inspire the people of his African American community. Then there is contrasting animalistic imagery with noble human qualities of the people of his community. like bravery and honor. And it's a rallying call for resistance, for their rights, for social justice to the people of his community. Madam, next slide. Then we'll see the tone of the poem, that the poem is written in a defined and resolute tone. It in the poem we find that there is an urgency, and the poet inspires the people of his community for courageous resistance. But there should be righteous anger, even even in the time of operation. And they should feel proud and honorable, even when death seems inevitable to them. The poem is quite motivational for the people of his own community to get united and to fight bravely. That is the tone of the poem. Next slide. Now we are going to come to the poem If We Must Try, written by Claude McKay. Now we are going to see the first quatrain. That is the stanza of 4 lines. We'll start the poem If We Must Die. The poet says, if you must die, let it not be like hawks hunted and in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at a accursed lot. In the opening stanza, the poet tells us the address is made to the people of his community who are resisting against the white, that death seems to be inevitable to them, but they should not die like hawks. Hawk is a domesticated pig. So here the poet says that they are being killed and brutally murdered by the whites like hogs, like a domesticated pig. Like a domesticated pig is caught and trapped and killed mercilessly. So here the poet tells us that the people of his community are also being caught and trapped and being killed brutally by the whites. They, while round us, bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at a accursed lot. In the next 2 lines of this quatrain, the poet tells us that they are being chased and surrounded by the white like mad and hungry dogs. They chase the whites. The white chase the African American like the mad and hungry dogs. And while persecuting them, while lynching them, while torturing them, while burning, while taking them out of their houses, killing them brutally, burning their houses and their business places. They laugh. They laugh at them. So here the poet highlights how the people of his community are being killed like animals without having any kind of mercy. They are being chased and driven out of their homes. But he suggests something to the people of his own community, what they should do. Here we find hawks and dogs. Hawks. Hawks, the people of his own community, the African Americans, are compared with hawks, and the white, they are being compared with mad and hungry dogs. Here, they tell that the people who are killing them, they have become like animal. They don't have any kind of mercy. They are killing them beastly, though they are in the human form, but they have become beast. They are killing the another human being brutally without having any kind of mercy that made them animals, like mad and hungry dogs. And even killing them, they laugh at them. They laugh at their persecution. And the poet emphasizes that the people of his own community, they are resisting, but he inspires them that they should not get killed like hawks. They should resist. In the second stanza, the poet tells us how they should resist instead of getting killed like a hog. Madam, next slide. Now here, in the previous quatrain, we have seen how the people of his community are being killed. Like domesticated pigs, they are being killed brutally. Their oppressors have become animal. They have become beast. They are killing their fellow human being mercilessly. They think that they have made the oppressed dehumanized. Now in the second stanza, the poet tells us what the people of his community should do, how they should resist. If we must die, oh, let us nobly die, so that a precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. Here, in the second stanza, the poet tells us that they know that death is quite inevitable for them. But instead of dying submissively, they should resist. And they should struggle courageously. Then their death will become noble. When they are going to resist and struggle against their oppressors. So the sacrifice which they are going to give, the sacrifice of their blood will not go in waste. Because that fight of resistance, when they are going to fight with courage and determination, so that fight will even compel their monsters. Here, their oppressors have been addressed as monsters, whom they defy. They should also be compelled to pay respect to them. So here, the poet urges the people of his community that instead of surrendering and dying submissively, it is better to die while fighting, while resisting courageously. so their blood will not go in waste. Their oppressors, the white, will also think, will be compelled to think that they have fought courageously, and they will also pay respect to them. That will be the sacrifice of courage and determination. Madam, next stanza. Now, in the first stanza, we have seen how the struggle is going on between the people of the poets' community, the African American, and how they are being brutally killed by the white. In the second stanza, he tells them how they should resist. Instead of dying submissively, they should resist. They should show courage because they know that it's quite inevitable for them. But they should die courageously. They should not become chicken hearted. They should be courageous. Here in third quatrain, the poet says, O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave. And for the 1,000 blows, deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? In the third quatrain, he makes the direct address to the people of his community, that is, the African Americans or the black, that they should get united and they should identify that their foe is common, that their enemy is one, and that is the white. Though they know that the African Americans are fewer in number, but what matters in the field of battle, not number, but your bravery. So they should fight against them bravely. They should become courageous. They should not be coward, though they know the situation very well, that they are fewer in number. But if they become courageous, so they will certainly surpass them. And for the 1,000 blows, deal one death blow. And for the 1,000 blows, deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Here, in the next two lines of the third quatrain, it tells us that the people of his community are being chased, they are being lynched, they are being murdered. Their houses were burnt to ashes. They are getting one or the another blow after one and the other. They are getting the blow on their faces. So he encourages the people of his own community, though they are getting different setbacks, that they are getting the blows, but they should get themselves collected, because it is not the fight of an individual person, it is the collective fight. They should get united, though they should not care, though they are lesser in number. But what matters in the field of war or in the field of resistance, that is bravery. So they should give the blow, one blow, and that should be a death blow. That should be the final blow. That should be the blow which sent their oppressors into the lap of a death. Though they know that their death is quite imminent. It is quite inevitable. Their grave is open before them. So they should get collected and attack on them. That they should also that they should also see their own grave. Madam, next slide, madam. Now we have discussed the first three quadrants. As I have told you in the introductory part that this poem is written in the form of a sonnet. Sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. It is divided into three quadrants followed by a couplet. Up till now we have seen the three quadrants. Now we are going to see the couplet. Like men will face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting. As we have discussed about the language of the poem, the poet has used the language very direct and powerful. He has used the words in such a way that they create mental picture before our eyes of cowardly pack, murderous. Now here, in the concluding stanza, the poet tells and urges the people of his community that they know that their grave is open before them, that death is inevitable for them. But they should not get disheartened, though the situation is quite dire for them. They are in the quite desperate situation because the murderous crowd is after them and they have surrounded them. But they should die, they should resist, fight, struggle, and they should fight like a courageous person. They should not die cowardly. Though he says that their oppressors, the white, are coward. They are killing them mercilessly. But here the poet tells the people of his own community that they should become courageously. And they should fight and resist, though death is quite inevitable for them. Because as we know that a coward dies many times before his death. So the poet inspires the people of his community that they should fight courageously rather than surrendering cowardly. So he tells them that they fight courageously. Then they are going to become man of courage. So it will compel their opponent to pay respect to them. Madam, next slide. Now we are going to see the poetic devices which have been used by the poet in this poem. The poet has used simile, in which direct comparison is made between two things, in which at least one thing is common. In the very first line of the poem, the poet says, if you must die, you must not die like hawks. Here the comparison is made between the people of his own community with hawks, because they should not die passively. Then the poet has employed metaphor, in which indirect comparison is made. Implied comparison, mad and hungry dogs. Their oppressors are being depicted as mad and hungry dogs. They have become savage. Then the poet has used alliteration. Alliteration is a figure of speech in which the sound of the same letter is repeated for musical effect, like hawks hunted. Then the poet has used refrain. Now, refrain. We are going to see what is refrain. Refrain is a line which is being repeated in the poem. In the poem, we see that the line, if we must die, is being repeated in the first and in the second quatrain. The poem begins with the call, if we must die. And in the second quatrain, if you must die nobly. So that is called refrain. Enjambment. Now, what is enjambment? It is the running of the line. The line doesn't stop in the line; it runs in another line. That we have seen in the second quatrain, where the poet says, their blood should not go in vain. Madam, take the previous slide. Previous. Previous one. See, you can see that this line, so that a precious blood may not be shed in vain. Here, the line should stop, but instead of, it is running in the next line, in vain. That is the example of enjambment, so that a precious blood may not be shed in vain. Now, apostrophe, in which a direct address is made. Here we have seen that direct address is made. The poet makes the direct address to the people of his own community. So he says, O kinsmen. Here, direct address has been made with the people of his own community. So the poet has employed apostrophe, rhetorical question. It is also the poetic device that we have seen, what though before us lies the open grave. It is the question which is asked, not for the sake of an answer, but to make the people of his own community to reflect that death seems to be quite inevitable to them. But to die cowardly, but it is always better to die courageously than to die cowardly. Then the poet has used personification, in which the non-living things or even the animals are given the quality of human beings, making their mock. Mock means to make fun of. Now, the whites, they make fun of the people of his community. They make fun while persecuting the African Americans, the black. They mock at them. Then exclamation, in which strong feeling is expressed. Oh, let us nobly die. Here the poet tells that they should die nobly. Because a coward dies many times before his death. So inspire the people of his own community that they should die courageously rather than submitting submissively. It has used imagery. Imagery is a kind of a figure of speech in which words are used in such a way that they create mental pictures before our eyes, as the poet has used hunted, entrapped. Then the poet has employed symbolism, symbols. Various symbols are used, like the symbols of hog, which is a domesticated pig, and that symbolize the African American, because they are being killed brutally without any mercy. Dogs, the whites, their oppressors have been symbolized with dogs because they have become mad dogs. They are killing brutally they are killing brutally the African Americans. Next slide. Now, we are going to discuss What is the message which we get after reading this poem? What is the relevance of this poem, which is written in the year 1919? What is its relevance with the present time? What is the relevance of this poem, which has been written nearly a century ago? Now we are in 2025. It was written in 1990. So what is the relevance? What makes the poem universal? Because in the poem we find that the poet has not made any kind of direct reference to the people of his own community or the people of the another community, the white. When we read the whole poem, we don't find there is a reference of the white or the black. Only when we go through the background of the summer 1990, we come to know that the poem is written under the influence, the incident of the Red Summer 1919 made the poet write this poem to inspire the people of his community. But the relevance of this poem is that the people should always try to fight against the social injustice. They should not care about who their oppressor is. This poem inspires us that we should get collected, mobilize, and fight against the injustice. Whenever we see any kind of social injustice, we should get united and struggle. We should resist, revolt against the injustice. This poem also inspires us. It shows its relevance even in 2025. Though the poem is written near about a century ago, it tells us the people to strive against the tyranny and discrimination. When we see any kind of discrimination in the society around us, we should try to eliminate the discrimination. We should not think about, though we are fewer in number, when we see any kind of tyranny, we should revolt against it. It tells us that we should get united when we see any kind of violation of human rights. Nowadays, we see the violations of human rights. So we should try to raise a voice against the violation of human rights. This poem is relevant. The poem is universal. The poem has given us the universal message. The universal message is that it is relevant in today's world also, that it tells us that whenever we see any kind of human right violation, we should stand against the violation. We should try to protect the people. We should try to protect the humanity. And how we are going to protect the humanity? When we protect a fellow human beings. It is a timeless call. The poet gives us the message that it's a timeless call. The poet gives us the message of timeless call for courage and unity in the desperate situation and to show dignity. It tells us that we should show a dignity while resisting. These are the message we can take from the poem. And I would also like to mention one thing, that this is a militant sonnet. In militant sonnet, you will find a kind of activism. Here we see Macaulay is not a simple person or a simple poet, but he shows his activism that we see in the poem. So it is also called a militant sonnet. I hope that we have discussed and covered all the points of the poem. You have any kind of query, I'm always open to you. Ma'am can share my email ID as well as my WhatsApp number, so you can mail me or WhatsApp me. So I will try to resolve your problem. Last, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the chairperson of the Board of Studies, English, Rasen Tukuruji Maharaj, Nagpur University, Principal of Rajkumar KEWALRAMANI, Dr. Urmila Tapir ma'am, Dr. Usha Sakure ma'am, Principal, MANOHARRAO KAMDI Mahavidyalaya, Dr. Swapnil Dahat sir, Principal, SETH KESARIMAL, PORWAL College, and Dr. Lokchan B. Jadhav sir, Principal, Mahatma Gandhi Arts and Commerce College, PARSEONI, for providing such a wonderful opportunity. By taking this kind of initiative for the students that they can get benefited with online lectures. It is the form of synchronous and asynchronous teaching learning. The students can get benefited according to their own convenience. They can attend the online lectures as well as when they get the time, these videos are available to them. So I'm extremely grateful and thankful to them, to the organizers, as well as I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the or to the coordinators for working very hard to make this online lecture series a successful one. Dr. Madhvi Muril ma'am, Dr. Renuka Roy, Dr. Meenakshi Vasnik, and Professor Pramod Gurde. Last but not the least, my students who are attending these classes with quite attentively, and I hope that they will certainly get benefited from these lecture series. Thank you so much. And over to you, ma'am. Over to you, sir.
Vilas sir, where?
Okay. Professor Abdul Shamin sir has presented a very beautiful poem, If We Must Die. He has elaborated the concept of bravery and fighting spirit, no matter how strong the enemy is. It is better to die nobly, courageously than cowardly. This poem inspired the struggle against the injustice and oppressions. Dear student, if you have any queries on the questions, kindly put in the WhatsApp groups. Thank you very much, sir, for the stalwartly presentations in a very short notice. You accepted our invitations and delivered such a wonderful presentation which served very useful and fruitful to the student. Thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you, sir.
Dear student, tomorrow we will be listening to yet another eminent resource person with the same zeal and enthusiasm. Meet you tomorrow soon. Have a good day and goodbye.
Thank you,
I
Shamin sir.
Okay,
Yes.
I
Thank you, madam.
heartily
Thank you.
thank organizers and coordinators of the cluster institution for their incredible efforts in organizing the online lecture series for the BSM third students. I extend my sincere gratitude to today's resource person, Dr. Meenakshi Vasnik Madam, Umate College, and Professor Abdul Shamin Sir, Renuka College, for the enriching and motivating our student, dear participant with their knowledgeable expertise and sparing their valuable time. Last, I extend my heartful thankfulness to our dear participants for your patience, listening, and actively participating in this program. Dear participant, with hope to continue the passion for learning, meet you tomorrow with yet another eminent person. Till then, goodbye and take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.